Hi there everyone and welcome, and thank you for joining this latest APMG webinar. My name is Mark Constable and I'm part of the team at APMG in the UK. Today we're focusing on the Service Desk Institute, or SDI professional certifications, which we administer in partnership with the Service Desk Institute. The SDI certifications are aimed at those working in or managing IT support and service desk teams. I'm delighted to be teaming up with Joe Johns for this webinar. Joe is our Chief Examiner for the certifications and has a wealth of IT service and support management experience, and Joe will be taking you through the details shortly. Before I hand over to Joe, there are just a couple of quick housekeeping items I need to cover. First of those is questions, so unless you're joining us from a mobile device, you should all have an option on screen to submit questions at any stage. Please feel free to do that. I'll be keeping an eye on those and we'll try and pick up as many of those as we can towards the end. We are recording the session today as well, so everyone that's registered will receive a follow-up from me or myself or a colleague a bit later in the day. That will include a link to the recording and also the slides and some additional information. And just a few points about APMG for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with us. So we're a global accreditation and exam institute, and some of you may recognise us as an exam and accreditation body behind products such as iTool, Prince2 and Agile Project Management. We manage a broad portfolio of accreditation and certification schemes in key areas including IT service management, project and program management, change management and cyber security. And we work with key industry partners such as Service Desk Institute, Axelos and the Agile Business Consortium to develop and promote best practice in those key areas I just mentioned. And with the support of our global network of over 400 accredited training organisations, we're currently delivering over 12,500 exams every month across the portfolio. So that's all from me at this stage. I'll come back in when we get to questions towards the end, but for now it's over to Joe for the key content. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hello, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. So what I'm going to do is take you through some strong opinions, maybe, that I have about the importance of training and certification. I've been fortunate enough to be involved with SDI for many, many years. First of all, as Head of Education and Development. I was also one of the original auditors for Service Desk Certification. I've been involved in IT service management for more than 2 decades. I'm not going to go any further than that. And I do believe in Service Desk and everything they do with an absolute passion. So this session today is going to cover just 4 areas really. Managers, I've very politely called them reluctant to spend on training, the ones that just don't seem to put you through worthwhile training. The probable impact if people do not continue to look after their staff by making sure they're properly trained. The second area we're going to look at is those managers who do spend wisely with their training budget and the most probable impacts of that, which are all good. We're going to look at some persuasive arguments that I would like to think would sway a reluctant manager in favour of putting their staff forward for worthwhile training, but arguments are not infallible, and you know, some managers have their hands tied, I do know that, and they are completely unable, not allowed to spend any money. Great mistake, but it does happen. And the final area we're going to look at is really attitude and approach. When you are trying to persuade somebody who doesn't seem to want to put you or your colleagues through for some worthwhile training, it's not about just what you're saying, but absolutely about how you say it. So those are the 4 areas. I thought we'd start off by being clear about what training is. So here you go. The activity of learning or teaching, that was me, the skills and knowledge needed for a particular job or activity. So a quick question to ask yourself here could be, have I been given the skills and knowledge I need to be able to do my job really well? I'd like to think the answer is yes, and fingers crossed for many of you it will be. However, I think it's still worth your time creating your own little matrix of the skills and knowledge you need to do your job really well. That will help you identify if there are gaps. think that might be a useful piece of information and documentation to put forward towards a reluctant manager? It'll be a very useful thing in your one-to-ones, if nothing else. This will show your boss that you're thinking about your job and how you can do it better. So it's definitely worth doing. So, training. The activity of learning or teaching the skills and knowledge needed for a particular job or activity. And it is the absolute truth. To do a job well, we do need to be shown how to do it correctly. So let me think. Now, supposing I were to put down my little sewing machine in front of you and give you a spool of thread and a bobbin and say, right, could you thread that up for me correctly and then sew me a nice straight seam? Now, unless you happen to be handy with a sewing machine, I'll bet for an awful lot of you the answer would be no. You need to be shown how to do it correctly. And working in IT service management, working on a service desk, whether you are a manager or an analyst or a support specialist or any other title you need to have to do your job well, you really need to be shown how to do it. Now, I would also say that, for some people, they come into a new role from a previous organization, so they have experience. They have experience that relates to the place they used to work, rather than where they are now working. And it is important that staff, if they're going to work well in the new team they've come into, need to know how we do it here to make sure that the service we provide to all our customers, all our users, is seamless and painless. Okay? I really believe this next bullet point, training courses absolutely should be a reward, and they are an underpinning statement of belief in the individuals. I have taught courses before now where I've asked, so why are you guys here then? And I've had one or two people go, my manager sent me, I suppose they think I'm rubbish at my job. That has been sold really badly to that individual, because people do not spend money on you if they don't think you're worth spending money on. So it's a reward. Chances are you may well be away from home for a couple of days, so you're getting out, away from the office, meeting different people, doing similar jobs to yourself. It is a massive reward, and it just reinforces the manager saying, I think you are worth investing in. Training courses can and should be a great motivator. I would like to think that from every course I have taught over my career, that people have gone back to the office a bit more fired up, enthusiastic, and really wanting to do a good job. I would be devastated if they didn't feel that at the end of it, to be honest with you. Oh. So I've got a little quiz coming up. Just 5 little questions. You just need to answer one of them, if you wouldn't mind, please. I'll just sit quietly whilst you do that.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I've just put that first poll on screen. So the first question is, when did you last attend a training course? And there's 5 options. So last 3 months, last 6 months, last 12 months, 12 or more months ago, or don't remember.
How's it looking so far, Mark?
Yeah, we've got most people have voted, I think, and it's looking, the majority of responses are between the last 6 months and last 12 months.
Oh, well, I consider that quite encouraging.
Yeah, we don't see it. No one's saying they don't remember. That's a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah, so there may be 1 or 2 others in the other options.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, if the answers are predominantly within the last 6 months or 12 months, I do find that encouraging, because that must mean that quite a few managers are doing a reasonably good job, and I would like to think that they are ensuring that everybody is having a good bite of the training apple to ensure that they are up to scratch with what's going on in the areas of speciality they're working in. And, training is the one thing that enables you to keep abreast of what is happening, the things you need to know. And of course the SDI courses are very much about best practice, and best practice is where a way of doing something has been proven over and over again to be the most effective, and that is what we specialize in at SDI. So thank you for doing the little quiz. I'll now move on through to my next slide, which takes us back to really, things we need to be thinking about regarding training. Then if you look at this, what training do my team need to enable the team to succeed both now and future? It's just a question for managers. Everybody in the team should have a think about that. As a team, what do we need to make sure we are succeeding now? So in other words, with what we're currently doing, what we're currently supporting, the people we're currently supporting, what about the future? Where is our organization going in the future? What else is it going to need from us? What training do we need to have in place before the future becomes the now, so that we are fully prepared to support our customers effectively? And not forgetting, it's not just about team, it's the individual, personal development. What training will also contribute to each individual's personal development? And whilst that might be a slightly more managerial question, I think it's equally relevant that all of us within a team should also have a good think about that and think, what they could really do with is a little bit more training on the way they actually answer a phone. If we're still taking support calls rather than doing everything electronically, they might sound a little bit abrupt. It would really help them. They might sound a bit nervous. So just because you've observed somebody. So they're important questions that we should all be able to identify answers to. So I'm going to take us on to what I have whimsically called reluctant spenders. Now, this is based on my experience over an awful lot of years in business. What are the first things that usually get cut back when an organization is in the doldrums? When business isn't going boom? Tends to be recruitment and training. And this little chappie at the corner of the screen screaming no is exactly how I feel. I just don't understand why organizations always go, right, freeze recruitment, freeze training. To me, that is such a mistake. This is why. If we don't recruit people, you will inevitably get what they call natural wastage, where people do leave, they retire, they go on to different areas, which means we have staff shortages. Now, I'll bet you on a service desk, if you lose 3 or 4 people and you're not allowed to recruit, I'll bet your SLA doesn't change to reflect that. I'll bet you're still working to the same service level agreement. What happens? An even greater workload for the people who are still there. And I have never yet met a service desk that doesn't have enough work, even when fully staffed. So the greater the workload, what happens? We start to get stressed. When people are continually working under stress, very often they get sick, they need to go on sick leave, which then leads to more stress for the even smaller number of people left on the team. Crazy. And no training. If you're not trained to do something, you're not properly equipped to do your job properly. You can't do a good job if you're not sure what you should be doing. That, I can guarantee you, will lead to a lot of very stressed people in the team, which leads to more stress, leads to sick leave, leads to more stress, and so it goes on and on, resulting in a downward spiral of misery, demotivation. And unfortunately, I have seen this happen, and my heart just goes out to people in this situation. You're working your socks off to try and do a job that 12 of you should be doing, with only 6 of you actually doing it. So I get very, very upset. I don't understand why more businesses and organizations don't understand that if they freeze recruitment, if they freeze training, they're actually going to create an even greater problem than they already have, 9 times out of 10. And we will continue to work our socks off. We will work incredibly hard, but with fewer people to do the same job that 12 people were doing previously, there's going to be a deterioration in the quality of the service that we provide, and that's not good for anybody. This is something else I've seen rather too much of, the rather smug manager who gets caught out by the use it or lose it principle. I saved $12,000 on training this year. And of course their director or their manager or the financial boss says, oh, well, that's great. You clearly don't need it, so next year you can have 12k less for your budget for training. It happens. So, you know, with a budget, we need to make sure that if we have, for example, $25,000 for training for our team for this year, we need to make sure that we look at what training is required now and looking towards the future, and make sure we plan out our training to use that budget wisely and well. And that will then remove the lunacy of going, yeah, I saved $12,000. Ah, you don't need it. We don't want that to happen. So managers, fight for your training budget, but please also use your budget. However, before you go off fighting and kicking for your budget, you do need to have your research done first. You can't go into fight mode without good rationales to back you up. So what you need to do is identify training that delivers the greatest value and benefits to your organization, to your team. Don't forget, it makes a manager look good if they've got really well-trained staff. And remember, cheapest does not always mean best. That's another trap that people often fall into. Oh, it's only cost me $200. That's great. It might be a fantastic training course. It might not be. So you need to look at reviews and feedback from other organizations that have attended the training to see exactly what your money is going to be spent on. Is it worthwhile? So you're spending it wisely. So sensible spenders, those ones that look at their budget, they look after their budget. They know what it is they want because they look at this. So they identify training needs for their team, for their individuals. And back to what I said earlier, they map the training to business requirements both now and in the future. So if you look at this little graph on the slide, I just took this out of clip art. I thought it was actually quite a nice one. These are some very good pointers to start you off. Who needs training? How are they going to get it? What kind of training do they need? Why do they need it? When's it going to happen? What other questions? What am I likely to be asked about? So that we have the answers. These are the main areas you need to understand and have reasons and arguments to support your training budget requirements. It's a good start point. I would also say add to this benefits in capital letters. If you can't identify benefits, your arguments will fail. And those benefits should be very much for the organization first. Should be for the IT environment, if the IT is where you work. Benefits for your boss, benefits for the team. I'm going to reinforce benefits for the organization. These are key to be identified. They tend to be listened to. Benefits more than anything else. You can't just drum your heels on the floor and shout and scream and say, I want, because you've got to have a good reason. I've also noticed that managers who spend their budget properly and wisely listen to their staff. They ask their opinion. What training do you need, guys? What would help you do your job better? They take note of what the teams say. After all, those are the guys that have to do the work. So it kind of helps if they're listened to. And they look for the training that will deliver what their team members need, not just professionally, but also personally. So managers who understand the answers to those previous questions always do these 2 points. And they will be making sure that they identify those benefits, because that is what makes the difference. The little graphic just says growth, and absolutely that's what it's all about. We're looking to grow the individuals, we're looking to grow the team, both personally and professionally. You want your team to be the one that everybody else would like to be in, ultimately. And training is a very, very good start point for that. I'm now going to, in a moment, go on to a quiz. But before I do that, I just want to talk about this. Key outcomes. If you have a boss that actually makes sure you get regular training, worthwhile training, training that's of value, training that helps you do your job well, you should recognize this. I think we feel recognized. we feel appreciated and rewarded. Yes, we do. It's great. If somebody goes, you're worth investing money in. I'm going to send you on this SDI training course. You're going to get a certificated training, the opportunity to take an exam. Recognized, appreciated, rewarded. When you're sent away on a training course, you should come back feeling much more motivated. You understand more about how to do your job. If you're motivated, you're going to be happier. And I've said it already, I'm going to say it again. Training enables you to do your job properly. We know what we should be doing. Again, SDI standards are all best practice. So this is the accepted way to do the role really well. And an interesting byproduct of going on training, where you're well trained and you're enjoying your job because you feel comfortable, you understand what's required, you know how to do the job, we tend to work even harder than previously and willingly. None of this sloping off as soon as we can, as soon as it's time to clock off. No more of the packing up 15 minutes early and just sitting there pretending to be busy. People will work harder. They'll work happier. You know, sensible spenders know this. I'm now going to ask Mark to take you on to quick quiz number 2.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Just going to get that one on screen now. Right, that's on screen. So the second one is, does your manager identify and arrange formal training courses to meet what you need, both as a team and individually? So the options are always, sometimes, rarely, never, or no formal training provided.
And I should specify there, Mark, because I didn't perhaps make clear that formal training means a formally arranged training course rather than just shadowing somebody for a couple of hours. Big difference.
Okay, that's most of the results in for that one. So we've got sometimes definitely looking the most popular.
Sometimes.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, fortunately not many around. Rarely and never, or no formal training. So
well, that's encouraging, but it's a shame from my perspective. It's only sometimes. A few years back, I'd made a point as a boss of planning out throughout the year certain training courses that were mandatory for everybody. We'd even do a quick half-day repeat of, for example, customer service skills, because people get a little bit lazy and a little bit casual if they've been doing a job for a while. So a quick refresher. And these were planned in that everybody would attend. The analyst course. Absolutely. And now I've known many managers that have actually sat the analyst course as well as the service desk manager course, because they need to know exactly what their staff are learning to make sure that they support it and understand it. So, you know, I used to have a calendar, and everybody would do some courses, and then we would have people who specialized in some specific area, and they would be booked on those, but always in consultation with the individuals to make sure I was clear about what they needed, what they were lacking, to help them fulfill their potential. So sometimes for me, isn't really good enough. I think it should be always. And I think if you're a manager, you do need to plan out a calendar, know what your budget is, know what you can spend, and make sure that you actually meet what is required for the team, in line with business requirements, don't forget, but also for the individuals. Some people are quick learners, some people are slower learners, some people can only cope with bite-sized chunks of information, others can just absorb everything like a sponge. So we have to look at the individuals as well. Really, really important. And I would also say, in terms of providing regular and worthwhile training for your team, that people are far less likely to leave because they do feel more fulfilled. They may leave because there's no further career opportunities, and in some organizations, particularly smaller ones, they may have reached as far as they can go unless their manager happens to leave. So they may ultimately leave to go elsewhere, but they won't do so willingly because they'll be very happy and feeling fulfilled and cared for and rewarded, motivated, all these things that we need. Motivated staff, happy staff. So, onwards. So my third item at the introduction was some persuasive arguments for. The first point is that training is a recognition and a reward. Good reminder. Training absolutely does lead to happier, more motivated staff. We might add in that third point there that they're also far less likely to want to leave. They'll be very happy if they feel cared for. Item 2, if the company resume says all our staff hold SDI qualifications, or the service desk resume says that, it looks pretty good. It's an absolute bonus. And it can't be denied, item 3, well-trained staff are competent and knowledgeable. They don't need over-managing, they need management, they don't need you over their shoulder. You know they will get on and do a good job with you there as their backstop. And I think it's very important to emphasize here that all the SDI products have a very strong focus on customer service and support. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is because when you're dealing with people, with human beings, it is the feeling we leave that individual with after we have sorted out their issue, their technical, whatever else issue it may be. It is how we make them feel that they will remember the longest. So a strong focus on customer service and support, fundamental to SDI products, something I believe in with a passion. It's not what you say, but how you say it, for example, yeah? It can be an innocuous statement read, but the tone of voice in which it's delivered says everything. So the customer service and support is a key element of all the courses, part of service desk certification, and it should never, ever be underestimated. The power of the memory that the customer has as a result of dealing with the service desk is powerful, more than you might ever realize. Some more arguments. Customers will absolutely notice the positive impact of the training they receive through SDI. I'm very fortunate. I know most of the SDI trainers, and they're a pretty good bunch. Very, very impressive. And you will find your staff come back filled with enthusiasm. There is also extremely good management content in the Service Desk Manager course and in Service Desk Certification, which I think is great. I mean, if you took out the IT service management aspect of SDM, it's a great manager's course. It's really, really strong in content. The 7th point, SDI curriculate the practical application of theory. Yes, it is. This was actually told me by a manager who put all his teams, he had several, about 3 I think it was, and himself through SDI courses. And he said, what I love, Joe, is the fact that it's practical. It's not theory. It is the practical application of theory. And I thought that was just so powerful. I've used it at every opportunity. If you send your staff on training, they know what they're there to do. They have clarity of purpose. They understand in which direction they're supposed to be traveling. This, makes everything come into clear focus. It makes life a lot simpler for a manager and for the individuals on the team. If you know where you're going and what you're supposed to be doing, my goodness, life is simpler. And very important for the organization, they will see value for the money that's been spent. What they will get is a slicker, smoother, even more professional delivery of the service and support from your team. And again, remember, customers will retain in their memory not how quickly something was fixed, but the manner in which it was done, the attitude, the behavior. It will be slick and smooth. It will be consistent, because we will all be working to a similar way with our own individual character in there, but we will be doing things the same way. So, that is something to bear in mind. Now, do you remember that at the beginning of this presentation, I recommended making a matrix of the skills and the knowledge you need to create of all the things you need to do your job really well. Now, where you've identified gaps in that matrix, that's a great argument again to support your desire to have some good training. I would also say this. If you are going to put your organization through for service desk certification, if your staff have been trained to the required level of expertise and knowledge, both as an analyst and in a manager's area, it makes the path to certification a lot simpler. They all tie in together. So when the auditors come on site, when they're coming to assess you, it will make sense to you. You will understand exactly where they're coming from. Your staff will be properly prepared, they'll be knowledgeable, they'll have the skills required. And STC, Service Certification, always, you have to work hard to achieve it, but you're well on the route. So never ever forget that. I was one of the original auditors, as I've said, I can vouch for this, where people have been through SDI training as analysts, as managers. It works really well once they get through to certification. So, the last little part of this presentation, the last point I put up was about not what you say, but how you say it. And yeah, if you use the megaphone approach, as this chappie is doing in the graphic, a demanding, strident, overly assertive approach will probably not work. It is absolutely attitude, tone of voice, body language. Assertive, yes, but if you're overly assertive, you are heading towards being aggressive, and aggressive behavior is not going to work if you're trying to persuade your manager to put you through some good training courses. Now, on this next slide, again, this little graphic headed Persuasive Essentials, I found on the internet. And although it's very much about sort of written persuasion, it is very, very valid for spoken persuasion. But, speaking factually, speaking politely, always please politely, being enthusiastic will get you a lot further than if you bang the table and stand eyeball to eyeball with your manager. If you start getting aggressive, always being polite with facts, being enthusiastic. So let's have a little look at what it says here. I just have to move something out of the way. Right, identify the topic and position. Explain what you want or what you believe. So, we've gone through quite a lot of reasons as to, in your training, how it will help you and your team improve. So that's a good start point. Solid support as to why you're right. So these are the facts, the reasons as to why you feel training would be beneficial to you and your team. It talks about organizing key points. Absolutely. All your reasons should be put in order of, if you like, importance, ending with the strongest one. It's up to you which one that is, but the one that you feel is the best point of all. Now, I would be wary about telling my manager what I expect them to do. The end is what you want, but it could be taken completely the wrong way. But what you would hope will happen as a result of your talking to them would be a slightly softer way to do it. You can't really say, right, manager, I expect you to now go and look at the SDI website and book courses for everybody. That's going to just put backs up. So, what I'd like you to do, boss, here's the link. If you go and have a look at that, you'll see how valuable it's going to be for our team. Would be a lot softer and more effective approach. Express your attitude. Absolutely. Reveal your feelings, as long as you're not screaming and shouting. Reveal your point of view. To reinforce your belief in the value and the benefit of training, in other words. And very importantly, this last point, employ exact words. Don't waffle. Use precise words to convince them. If you waffle, they'll get lost. Don't be monosyllabic, but don't waffle. Okay? So this is the link I just talked about. If you haven't seen the SDI standards, they're absolutely worth looking at. You can download them perfectly easily, and they will show you what there is involved in the Service Desk Analyst curriculum, what is in the Service Desk Manager curriculum, and also it shows you what's in Service Desk Certification. So there you have all the information you need. So, in summary, we've talked about what happens when someone is reluctant to spend money on training and education for their teams. So, you know, you've got the slide content. You can go back and have a little look at that, and I will bet that some of it absolutely resonates with you. Then we looked at what happens when we spend wisely and well on training and education for the teams, the benefits, the value, the good feeling that it gives everybody. We've looked at just a few arguments, sort of sensible arguments, as to why training and certification is something that our team, our organisation, should be pursuing on a regular basis. I would also reinforce the importance for properly planned and scheduled training. We do occasionally have the emergency, urgent need for sudden training, but most of it should be planned out across the year, because then you can actually budget appropriately. And the final point we looked at was your approach to persuasion. So no eyeball-to-eyeball stuff, no shouting and screaming and getting a little bit aggressive, but rational, factual, polite enthusiasm will get you one heck of a lot further. So I kind of come to the end, because our quizzes went through quite quickly, which is good. At least you all answered something. And I would like to see if we have got any questions, Mark.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Joe. Yeah, we've got a few questions. I'll keep an eye on more coming in, but I'll start with this one. So I'm worried that if I put my team through certified training, they will then leave for another job. What can I do about that?
Yeah. My first answer would be, well, come on, make it worth their while to stay. You know, people spend more time at work than they do at home, so we've got to make the environment as pleasant as possible. We've got to make the team an engaging place to be part of. We've got to look always for opportunities for all of them, for advancement, for responsibility, for growth. Now, that might mean that you lose them to another team, but if we can keep them at least within our organisation, we haven't lost completely. The exception would be if there is absolutely nowhere else they can go in the organisation. If they have reached as far as they can go, then the chances are they will ultimately leave anyway. But I think a really good manager, if they recognise that that is the situation, that you've got this fabulous person, but there is no real opportunity for advancement and growth within your organisation, to actually help them find the job that will help them fly even further. You could always try the hard-headed approach, which is say to people, well, you know, if we put you through this training, if you leave within 6 months, you have to pay it back. I have heard people try to do that. It's very hard to enforce. So that's the kind of brutal one. But for me, it is always make it worth their while staying. Make the job as enjoyable as it can be. Make it fun. You know, laughter is not yet illegal on a service desk or in any other team that I'm aware of. Give them plenty of opportunities to further develop and grow, to get more responsibility. If they want responsibility, some of them don't, but still make their job worthwhile. You know, for some people, to sit there dealing with customers, resolving their technical issues, that's all they want to do. And they are very valuable people, but make sure they want to stay with you. So, you know, that's what I would do. And help them always develop and grow, even if it is to another team. How about answering it, Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Second question, what do I do in this situation where I want certified training, but my manager is resistant or unwilling? I think you've touched on some tips already, but is there anything else, tips and hints you can offer?
Yeah, well, you're right. I have touched on this as much as I can. the persuasive reasons given are always worth using. You may well have a few that are particular to your own organisation, so just think about why it would be valuable to my organisation, to my team. I would also suggest you start, I call it painting a picture. Paint a picture of the future in their mind. Say, can you not see that, you know, if we go through this training, 3 months from now, this is what we're going to get. We're going to get fabulous customer service satisfaction results. You know, when we send out the surveys, we're going to see a noticeable uptake, which, boss, is really good for you, and it's going to make you look good. It's going to make the team look great. The bosses are all going to be happy. Things like that. But also, I would say that managers do need to factor, the more senior they are, certainly the more facts and figures they like to have in front of them. So, you know, you do need to have as many facts and figures as you can. Now, I don't know if SDI would do this, so I'm out on a limb here, but it may be worth asking the Service Desk Institute if they have any case histories, in other words, success stories that they could share with you, suitably anonymized, but just, you know, absolute bona fide examples. Can't beat a case history. Okay?
Lovely, thanks, Jo. Next question is about the content of the course. So what does the course entail, and how long will it take me to study/pass?
Okay. Right, well, the first part's quite... the courses are... The analyst course is 3 days duration, working normal office hours. Now, it's also available online. If if your boss says, I can't afford to have you away for 3 days and staying in hotels with all the additional costs, don't forget that SDI, Service Desk Institute, do also do an online course, which is, it's done live, so your tutor is live with you. I love courses like that. I think they're great. So, you have the students and the trainer online, so you can do it that way. 3 days normal office hours. You'll work hard. There's quite a fair amount of content, but the trainers that I know and have immense respect and affection for make it really good fun, and the days do fly past. The Service Desk Manager, 4 days. Again, normal office hours. I believe that's also available online. Same rules apply. Great teachers, make it good fun. It is, yes, there's no guaranteed pass. You have to work hard to earn it, which I think is quite right. So, length of time to study or pass, minimum 3 days for the Service Desk Analyst, minimum 4 days for the Service Desk Manager. Okay? How long will it take you to pass? Hey, it depends how well you apply yourself ultimately. If you really do sit and learn and listen and take notes, fit the mock paper, listen to what everybody's saying, listen to the tutor, the exam is absolutely passable first time. The biggest stumbling block for people are those, I believe, who've been in IT service management for quite some long time, because they very often have their own opinions and beliefs about the way things should be done, which do not necessarily agree with SDI's best practice standards. And the hardest thing for them is not listening to their inner voice going, oh, but we always do it this way, and saying, but SDI, what does the standard say? Because that is the answer the exam questions look for, the best practice answer. So you do have to occasionally, if you have years of experience behind you, shut out that little voice that argues and go, no, but SDI says. And bear in mind, this is best practice. So for what it's worth, also, it wasn't specified in this question, but I'll tell you, the pass mark for the analyst course and the manager's course is 65%. So it is reachable, it is doable, but it's not a guaranteed pass. You have to earn it. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Jo. I think the last question for now is something around the benefits. So what is the value in me getting qualified, and how do I benefit personally?
Very easy for me. It goes on your CV, on your resume. I mean, yes, it's great it goes on the one for your team as well, but you actually have it on your resume. That is always a good thing to have for the future. Also, the other massive benefit and the value is that you will be learning and practicing industry best practice. So you're not doing it just any old fashion, you are doing the job to the best possible standard. And that's it.
Lovely, thanks, Joe. I think that takes us to a close then. So if I can just ask you to scoot one slide forward, so we've got those, or was it two slides?
That one.
Yeah, perfect. So we've got some links there if anyone wants to jot them down and take a look at some further information on the website. So that just leaves me to I'll just remind everyone as well that we have recorded the session, and as I said at the start, we'll share that in a follow-up email. We'll share the link and also to the slides as well. But that just leaves me to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank Joe very much for your time and contribution. And we hope to see you on future APMG webinars. So thank you, everyone, and bye-bye. And
I would just like to say thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. If I can help further, here's my email address. Please feel free to contact me. I will help if I can.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye. Speak to you soon.